So let's go back to what we want to do today. Let's do something practical. So let's close out this. Yeah, that's the GitHub page. You can download the starter files there. So yeah, we want to design. Let's name it pricing because we want to do. Let's close out this because it's like a pricing page. You know, when you, after arriving at a price at the you are shopping online, you want to buy this product online, and you get to a page that talks about its pricing, right? So they have one that is for personal subscription, another one that is perpetual subscription. For this one is $45 per year. This one is $69.99 per year. You can buy now. There are another list items at the bottom, and then it tells you what you get. It says 30 days money back guarantee, Mac and Windows compatibility, and so on and so forth. So what we want to demo here is how to use Flexbox, right, to position or to align this, to lay out these items here. So let's create a page. Since I'm inside, let me do it. Okay, let me just do it here. Let's name it pricing.html. So you can code along if you have the starter files. You can do so. Pricing.html. Let's give it our boilerplate code. So we have this already. Let me view in live server. So nothing is here, right? So let's give it a style. I think I already have, okay, yeah. So I have a style.css file here with the default reset CSS that we talked about last week. Margin is 0, padding is 0, border is none, box sizing is border box. So it's there. So we'll begin styling our content. So back to pricing.html. So how do we use this external file? How do we use external CSS? We do that using the what? Who can tell us? How do we use our external CSS? Using the link tag, yes. So we reference our external CSS using the link tag. So I can just go to this. By default, I already named it as style.css. So, which means this style, this page, this style.css is already connected to this page. That's the meaning. So if I do, at this point, I do body, background color, if I can type, background color, aqua. Let's see what happens. You can see, look at the background color of this page has changed. Because remember we talked about how CSS selectors last week. This is called type selector. That means I'm selecting the HTML tag itself. I'm not using a class. I'm not using an ID. I'm targeting body directly. So I just wanted to show to us that this line alone like this already connects this CSS class file to this HTML markup. So let's remove this. We don't need this. Now, so we're going to be fast. We want to move fast. What about a tag? A tag. A tag is your anchor tag. Anchor tag. So take note, check the reference documentation. That's for creating links. When you want to link to other things, you use your anchor tag. That's anchor tag. So now let's start writing our what is it again? We're designing this particular website. So logically, we should start from the header, right? And we talked about semantic HTML and the like. So we're going to start with a div element. So let's do div. Let's give it a class, let's do header wrapper. In case I'm too fast, just you can call me back so I can explain. So now we are talking about this is real life coding now. So I want to show you how to do this in real life. So I want to structure this part. I'm calling it, there is a wrapper around this particular heading or header, right? So I'm naming that class header wrapper. And by the time we start styling it, you know why that is important based on the design that we have, right? So there's a wrapper around this element. So header wrapper, that's the name of the class. Remember, we have style.css, which has not been styled here. Then now inside this div, because this is a wrapper, I want an HTML5 header element. So header. So inside this header element, I now have the branding and then the navigation. Let's do div.logo. That's 1, and then HTML nav. That's 2. So look at this. Inside the header, we have the logo or the branding. We can still rename this later. There, and then the navigations. Now come to this design again. We have the logo, and then we have all the navigation. So which means all these links alongside this this icon and this button, I refer to them as, or I'm putting them under the nav elements. Or let's do this way. Instead of, okay, let's put only the nav elements here and then align this one to the, let's give this one something else. So let's name it, let's say, what do we call this? Right buttons, right? So inside the header, I have the logo. This is logo, the nav, and then let's name this another div again. Let's name it right buttons. So you can see how VS Code with the Emmet extension helps you to move fast when you are typing, right? So if you do div dot a name and you do enter, automatically it gives you that tag with the class name and all that generated for you. So now we have, look at 3 items inside this header. There is the logo, there is the navigation, and then there is the right buttons. So logically, I'm grouping these this way: the logo, all the nav items, and then the right buttons. You can see that is how I've structured them. So how do we now, let's put in the content. So let's go back to our before. Okay, yeah, let's go back to the logo. So for the logo, we have, let's do an href for the logo. Remember, we have the starter file. The starter file is here. You get all the contents. So the font, we'll still talk about font awesome. Then the images are here. File logo.png, FireBuy logo.png is here. Then the content is here as well. So take note of that. So back to designing the logo. Let's do img with the source, and the source is images. I think images slash, hope I'm in the same directory. Fire, whatever it's called. So images slash FireBuy logo. So FireBuy. You must spell it the way, exactly the way it is. So logo.png. So I'm having, so images FireBuy logo.png. So let's check. So it's not this. Let me refresh this. So nothing is being displayed here. Let's see what's going on. So source images slash FireBuy logo.png. I hope I'm in the same direct, the same. This is pricing. I'm inside the starter file. Do this. So this is how you debug your code. Images FireBuy logo. Is it a PNG file? Let's check. Yes, it is. So I have FireBuy logo. All right. So let's start with a forward slash. Let's see what will happen if we start with a forward slash. So, yep. So if I do forward slash week 4, let's see what this gives us. Forward slash starter, and then images, and then FireBuy logo. Oh, so you can see this is displaying. But let me see, can I start from starter? Okay, so it's still displaying. So I'm inside. All right. So this is displaying. Let me refresh this. Now you can see the image is very large, right? So let's give it a size. Somebody said I started from images and it worked. Yeah, it should work. I don't know why it's not giving me. So let me go back. Let me do slash because I'm in the same directory. They are the same level. So I guess the way my folder is structured here, so something is going on. But let me just leave it the way it is now. So we're inside week 4 folder. Yeah, okay. All right. So that's that. So now let's give it a size. Let's make it a width. Remember, you should give it a width of, let's say, 180. Yes, this is coming together right now. So we can see the width is 180, right? And then let's give it an alternative text so that somebody who is visually impaired can have an idea of what this is. So we can do branding, or let's do website logo. Actually, this is not the one I wanted to use. Let's do FireBuy logo. Yep, so this is the one I wanted to use. So FireBuy, right? So we have the logo there. We have, let's do the nav items. So now we're still going to write the CSS to style all this. So let's do nav. So inside the nav items, inside the nav, I have on ordered list, how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 items, right? So on ordered lists, 6 items, li times 6, enter. So the first one is about. Next one is products. Remember, the content is here. So in case you are looking for the content, it's inside that same starter folder. Content is here. So you can easily just copy this. Products, I have that. Okay. Then I have solutions. Then I'm having, what next again? Support. Let's do support. Hope you are following along. And then resources. Resources, and then store. So we have that. Gradually building our header, right? This is how it works. This is how you build websites. So then the last item here to the right, remember we have 3 components. I'm grouping this into 3 components, right? There is the branding component, the navigation component, and then the right buttons component. So 3 components inside the nav element. So inside the right buttons, I have, let's do, instead of giving it a div, let's make it a UL. Let's make this one the UL. I just want to list those items out there. And then there is a list item, li, 2 of those. Then the first one is, let me just put a text here, cart, and then sign in button. So how do we how do we now align? How do we lay out these items, this header, right? So we have the header. So we have the class, the wrapper, right? So let's go back to our CSS. Now let's now style this. So remember, we already have the reset CSS here. So let's define dot header wrapper. So let's give it a width of 100%. Let's give it a width of 100%. So you can see view, we've not talked about that. What is it again? Units in CSS. So this VW stands for view width. That means it occupies the entire width of the viewport. So take note of that. You can assume, you can just give it, you can make yours maybe 992 pixel or 75 rem. There are different units in CSS: inches, pixel, rem, em, different types. So you can Google that and see what you can use. So let's give it a background color of let's say white. Background color of white. When you're working on real life projects, right? So it's advisable to even pull out all your colors and put them at the top of the CSLs, right? So that they are there globally and you can use the CSS VAR. There's variable CSS function that you can use to now access or reference each of those colors. But let's just type them in here. So background color is white. Then let's give it a border bottom. Border bottom. So 1 pixel solid. Let's give it a gray color. Let's do, let me see, gray color. Let's give it a light gray color. Something here. So that's that. Then we have, let's come back again. So let's wrap this around with another div tag. Let's call it main header, right? Let's do this. If you have the tag wrapper extension installed on VS Code, you can easily just do that right now. So you have, or let's just name this. Let's give it a class main header head. All right. So let's now style. Now, who can tell me what I'm trying to do here? There are 3 elements inside this main header. 1, 2, 3. So what we want to do is to apply CSS flex or flex box to this main header so that this main header becomes a CSS container. Now let's see what happens. Immediately as we do that, let's see what happens. So main header display. We said for every CSS container, you give it a display of what? Of flex. Can you see? So we've arranged the top. So element by default, we said the default direction is row. So that means I don't need to use flex direction. By default, it is row. So it's going to align those items from left to right. Let me bring out this in a bigger screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see This 1, 2, and 3. So there are 3 items. Remember the demo we did. Each item takes the width of its content. FireBuy, this is the width of this, and this is the width of this. Are we getting it? So let's move along. So let's align items center. Remember what align item does. It aligns those items across or along the cross axis. So align items, let's make it center. Can you see FireBuy, this all the nav items and then the right buttons, they are now along the cross axis. They are aligned along the cross axis. Take note of that. Align vertically along the cross axis. You can see. So now let's see, how do we spread them out? Remember, we want to spread them out such that they appear this way. One is here, then there's one at the middle, and then the last at the right hand side. Remember the space between property, space between, that's what you use. So, and it is justify content space between. Ooh, can you see? So FireBuy is here at the left hand side. All the elements are in the middle. All the nav items are in the middle. And then we have the other buttons at the right hand side. Hope you are following. Somebody's asking, is there a special way to know what width or height to assign? No, there is no special way of knowing, right? So that's why you try different dimensions. For example, I could have just used let's say 100% here, or 75 rem. So by the time we talk about responsive design, we'll look at some of these units. So 75 rem, look at how it has extended the page, right? Let me come to this place. This is 75 rem, which means from here to here is 75 rem. Remember by default, your browser has a pixel size of 16. So there's a way the mathematics works. So a rem, 75 rem, I believe is 75 times 16 or something pixel. So yeah, you try different dimensions. You can go to different sites and see what is the max width of this website. How did they do it? Some you can see a website as big as 2555 pixel, or some you can see 1200 pixel, and so on and so forth. So, but once the page is shrinking, let me do this inspect. So let's do, so you can see, so as the page is shrinking, the width, look at the width here. You must make sure that your components are responding to the size of the viewport. See? So you must make sure they are responding to the size of the viewport. So take note of that. But yeah, let's use view width. I want the header to fill the entire width of the page. So that's why I'm doing 100 view width. 100 view width here. Which means no matter the size of the width, it will resize. You can see, look at the display here is smaller. So 100 view width means that it's going to occupy this small space. And if the width becomes bigger, like in this case, you can see it's spreading from left to right. It's occupying 100% of the viewport or the view width, regardless of the size of the view width. It could be on a mobile phone, it could be on a tablet, it could be on a larger larger desktop computer. It's going to fill the entire width. So that is why I'm using VW here, 100 VW. What tag gives you the default horizontal line? not HR. No, don't use HR. So HR is an old way of applying horizontal lines. Use border inset. Look at border bottom. Look at it. Border bottom, and then you give it the size, which is the thickness of the border. Then is it a solid line? Is it a dotted line? Then and the color of the border. So take note, border bottom. If you just do only border without the bottom, it's going to give it a box. It's going to apply the border around that element. You can't see it because of the thickness. Let me do 5. Let me do 200 here. Ooh, you can see the border. Let me do 50 here. You can see the border, right? That's the thickness of that border, and it's applied around that particular element or that particular component. But I don't want that. I just want the border to be at the bottom. So that's why I'm using the bottom option. See? Border bottom, you can see. So it applies that border only to the bottom of that container. But I don't want a thickness of 50. I want a thickness of just 1 pixel. So take note of that. So you can see that's that. So we have, so the main header has the header wrapper has a view width of 100. Now let's give the main header now a view width of, let's say 70. Let's see. Let's do a width of 70 view width. Now let's come back to this bigger one so that you can see. Something is wrong. Oh, 7. Yeah, you can imagine. So that is 7 view width. I wanted 70 view width. So look at this. So that means from here to this point is 70. Let me give it a background color for you to see what I'm talking about. Main header. Let's apply background color of, so you can see it well. Let's do brown. So look at, so that brown box has a view width of 70, right? That's a view width of 70. So take note of that. Now, we want this to be aligned to the middle of the page, to the center aligned at the top. There is a cheat code for doing that. You use your margin, but 0 auto. Look at margin 0 auto. Remember the box model again. So the box model for two properties. It means this is top and bottom, right and left. Assuming there were 4 properties here, there will be top, right, bottom, left. Take note. But if you have 2, there's an option to use just 2 properties here. It means that the first one applies to the top, the top and bottom, and then the second one applies to the right and then the left. Now this auto, you know, I'm not using a var, I'm using auto. The auto helps your browser to automatically gives it a margin, the same margin to the right and the same margin to the left. So you don't have to declare a value. It makes it easy for you to center align a component, right? So don't declare, don't try guessing, oh, let's do 30 pixels to the right, 50 pixels to the left. As long as you want to align this component to the middle, just do 0, then auto. Is going to align this element to the middle. Let me bring this closer to here so that we can easily. So you can see gradually we are building this, right? We are building this. This is what we are building. FireBuy, all the elements, and then the buttons here. So these buttons, this particular button is a font awesome button. So we'll see how to use font awesome today. So, but I want to make sure we because our time is fast spent, but I want to make sure we're able to finish this header. It's very, very important. So now let's do, so let's go back to, now I need to remove this background. So Let's go. Let's remove this background. Now, so FireBuy, about the width is justify content space between. But why am I having this? Let me refresh. This should. Oh, okay, all right. I've centered it to the middle. It's in the middle of the page. All right. So now let's now do how do we make all this horizontal, right? Look at all these links here. All these links. How do we style them so that they're horizontal? And we don't want these bullet points, this default bullet point that comes with UL. We can remove all those at the bottom. Somebody saying, I think border bottom is not working for me. Yeah, it should work for you because it's working here. So look at your source code. So HTML and CSS is sometimes hard to debug your code because if there's error somewhere, it doesn't highlight it. It doesn't give. It doesn't tell you there's an error. Unlike other programming languages, right? In programming languages, you can, within your IDE, it tells you there's a bug here when you compile. But in CSS, in CSS and HTML, it won't. So please make sure you go over your code properly to make sure that your code is working fine. So now we want to style. Let's style this main this UL element, right? This UL element, this UL. Again, back to CSS selector that we learned last week. How can we select a CSS element that is nested inside? How can we select an element that is nested inside other elements? Very simple. So you can use, if I want to select only the UL element, because when you're writing your code, you can have several UL elements in your markup. So you don't want to just target. If I come here now and I do UL directly, right? Yes, at this point it's going to target this UL, but what if along the line we now have several other UL elements in our markup? So that's why it is good to select the exact element that you're going for, right? So like in this case, we can do all the UL elements within the main header class, which is just only this one, inside the main header class. And how do you do that? I think we talked about this last week. So that means there is a main header class, but I want to select the UL element inside the main header class. That means there can be other UL elements outside this class at different portions of your markup. I'm not interested in those ones, right? I'm not interested in those ones. I'm interested in the UL elements inside the main header class. This one. So main header UL. Let's take note of that. So we have main header. So let's go back to style. So how do we, again, we want to make them, align them horizontally. Again, we can use flex, what we just learned today, right? So if we use flex property, that means this becomes the flex, or the UL rather becomes the flex container. So if I do display flex, let's see what happens. Ooh, can you see that? Look at, let me refresh this. Is this from my, hold on. Oh, okay. So you have to be careful. Look at what I have here. Inline flex box because of autocomplete. So it is flex, not inline flex box, just flex, right? Just flex. Look at all those elements. They've been aligned. But I want to target only this one and it's responding to this. No, I don't want that. Let me go back to my CSS. Let me see how my HTML is structured. I want to target the UL under the main header. Somebody is saying it's not clear to me why we're using UL in line 12 instead of div in our HTML. So there is no hard and fast rule to how you structure a HTML. Another person can use div here, right? I can decide to use div here and then give it a class, just like the way I'm having it here. And then give this another div, put in your items there. So you can use div, but I just choose to use UL here. So take note of that. How do we remove the UL mark? So yeah, so you remove that by calling the list style. We'll do that now. But before then, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So I have the main header, then the logo, the nav, and then the UL elements. Okay. So yes, so let's remove that now. So come back to this and do list style. So list style type, or even list style alone should work. So you can see all the bullet points are gone. Can you see? All the bullet points are gone. Or let's give it some padding. Nav, all the LI elements inside these nav items. So let's come back to this place. So all the LI elements. So I'm targeting the nav items, right? Just the nav items. Then all the LI items inside that nav. If you want to be specific, you can even say all the UL inside the nav, and then all the LI items inside the UL, if you want to be specific. So I want to give it a padding right of, let's say, 1.5 rem. So can you see? Gradually, we are having what is here. See? About, product, solutions, support, resources, store. You can see I gave mine a gap and it worked nice. Okay, yeah, that's good. We can use a gap as well for that, since it is flex. So 1.5 frame, you give it a padding on both sides. That's that. And then what else again? What can we do? So look at this now. So let's increase, I believe we can increase the font, or let's do the A tag first. So let's do the A tag. So come back to our HTML, wrap all this around your A tag. I believe it's option W, A, href. It's pointing nowhere, so let's just do that there. So wrap this around your A tag, option W, A, href, hash. So another way you can quickly do this is you copy this. Since I'm doing the same thing, instead of repeating, I'll just option click, holding down your option button, paste, right? And then you can see how I pasted those things at once. Holding that option button, click, and paste. Option, oh, that was control. Option, click. Nope, not that one. So click, and click, paste. So look at what's option button on Windows. Oh, on Windows is Alt, Alt. On Windows is Alt. So now, because they are now hyperlinks, we now have the default color of blue and then an underline, which is really not beautiful. Look at what we have here. there is no blue color, and there is no underline, right? How do we remove that? Simple. Back to your CSS. You remove that using text decoration none. So, but then we need to select. So that's where selector comes in. You must know what you want to select before applying the CSS rule to it, right? Now, come back to your HTML. I have all these A tags. There are different ways I can select this A tag. I can say all the A elements inside this main header, because that is true. Look at, if I collapse this, look at all the A tags inside my main header. Because at some point within your source code, down your source code, you can have a tag somewhere else. So you don't want to target a tag globally. So target, specifically what you want to select. So inside my CSS, I can say all the A tag in the main header, right? I want to remove my text decoration should be set to none, not text align. Text decoration should be set to none. Can you see? See, text decoration is none. So the underline is removed. All right, so we have so for the A tag, we've given it a text decoration of none. So, but let's give it we don't want blue, so we want a black color, because look at our mockup, we have black here. So let's give it a black color, right? So let's come back to our CSS. So for the A tag inside the main header, give it a color of black. So see, this is now black, right? And then we now have the right button. So let's talk about what's the time? Oh my God. So this is, we have like 5 minutes to the end of this class. So I guess we're going to continue this next week. So we have FireBuy to the left, all the nav items to the middle, and then the buttons to the right. So let's see, how do we code this button? So let's name it, let's give it, for the right one, so let's do, let's go back here. Let's do an A tag, anchor tag first. Goes nowhere, let's put a hash there. And then let's give it a class. Let's give it a class of button, but what type of button? A sign-in button. So class btn, what type? Sign in. Not ding in, sign in, because you can have a login button, you can have a buy now button. So that means generally there's a button, and then there are now different types of button. Remember the way we styled our boxes when we were demoing Flexbox. Each of those items had a block CSS class, all of them had a block CSS class, but each of them now has block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, because you want to uniquely target a particular one. So in this case, even though we want look at here, let's come back here. Even though we want a button here, but what type of button are we targeting? It is a sign-in button. Here, this is a button. What type of button is this? It's a buy now button. So that means, so these two buttons should inherit some properties, right? Maybe the font size, the font color, and things like that. But then specifically, they should have their own individual properties. For example, background color. Is there a border? This one has a border around about it. This one does not have a border. This one, if I hover on top of it, you can see hover. If I hover on top of it, the color changes to a deeper pink. But this one, there is no hovering effect on this. So yeah, so that's how you could develop components. As much as possible, develop components so that they are reusable, right? So there's a general button component, and then there are now specific buttons. There's a sign-in button, there's a binary button, and all that. So how do we style our button, our BTN? So let's come here. Somebody asked a question. Why not just name it header as specified in the HTML? So yeah, so as much as possible, avoid giving the same name to your tags. So this body is called header, right? So I don't want to call this class header as well, right? So yes, HTML really doesn't, you can get away with that, but in terms of, best practice, don't name this header as well. Name it something else, depending on what you're designing. It could be main header, it could be anything, depending on what the markup says, right? A website could also have, and in fact, look at this. Let's go back to unlimited code. Unlimited code, IO. Look at, this is a header. In fact, this is the main header here. This one here, this one with the logo and all the list items is the main header. But there's another header at the top here that contains the email and then the buttons justified to the right, to the left. So this can be main header. This can be whatever name, maybe top header. So assuming you name it as header, what will you give to this one again? As in, what will you name this as? So if you name this as header, dot header, will you name this as dot header? No. So inside your CSS file, you try to kind of distinguish what each of these does. You want to remember semantic, give it meaning. This is like the main header. We can call this is like a top header or contact header or something, whatever I want to name it as. So that's that. But for this project, we have just one header. So I'm naming it main header, right? So take note of that. So we have this right now. So while we're trying to design our button, so let's come back to our CSS again, and then time is 4 p.m. by my time, so we're almost done. Button. So how do we style this button? First of all, let's give it a display of inline or a margin. Let me come back to. In fact, I've not even given it. Have I given it a text? Nope, I've not. So sign in. So that's why we can't see anything. So sign in. Somebody said sign on versus sign in. The language doesn't matter here, or the grammar doesn't matter here. Some websites you can see sign in, not sync. Some websites you can see sign in, log in, log on, then sign up, sign up. Where I think it's only sign up we have. So sign up means you want to register afresh. Sign in, you are a returning customer, right? You want to sign in. You've already signed up before, or you've created your account before, but you now want to sign in. So use the appropriate language or the appropriate grammar at this point. So we have sign in. There is the cart as well, which is going to be an icon. So now let's give it a border radius. Let's give it a border first. So button, let's give this button a border. Again, border, but this time around, I want the border around the button. So I'll just do border 1 pixel and then solid. And let's give it a color. What kind of color is this? What kind of color is this? This is like black, right? Let's do black. Let's do black. So you can see, look at my sign in button here. Then we can still customize further. We can customize further. Comparing this button to this, you can see there is a margin or padding round about this text. So let's give it a padding, or margin. Let's do margin let's do, or padding rather. Padding, let's do to the top and bottom, let's do 0.5 rem, 0.5 rem, and then to the right and left, let's do 1 rem. So this is where you start testing, start trying different things, right? You start trying different things. Look at, so this is, you can see different, different sizes, just to make sure you arrive at the design that you have. So ideally, there is a UI UX guy who has given you these designs. So they'll give you all the specification, the padding size and everything. In fact, you can see there is a border radius around this button. So they will give you all those dimensions. So you now go ahead and code according to the specification. So there's a border radius here. So let's go back to our CSS. Let's give it border radius. Border radius, let's make it 0.5 rem. Ooh, you can see there is now radius around the board. Instead of having sharp edges, it now has curved edges, right? So gradually we are designing what we have here, right? So there's a border radius around the button. There is, let's give it a margin. Now, because we want to reuse this component, let's make this margin 0.5. I'm gonna show you why I'm removing padding from here. I'm removing padding from here because we said we now have different types of buttons, right? Let's come back to mockup. There are types of buttons. Look at the padding from here to here compared to the padding from here to here. They are different, right? So there should be a default padding to all of them, but for each of them, you cannot give them different paddings or specific paddings. But because they will all inherit from this same button component, I don't want to apply a general padding at this point. Maybe when I now do the sign in button dot sign in, then I can now give it its own padding because they should have different paddings. The padding here is much larger than the padding here. So that's why I needed to remove that from here. So the sign in button should have its own padding, and then the, what is it? All the buttons themselves, all the buttons should have their own, or should have a general margin rather. So there's a general border, a general margin, and then there's a general border radius. Then specifically for the sign-in button, I can make this padding, let's do 5 pixel at the top and bottom, 5 pixel at the top, at bottom, then 12 pixel to the left, so the right and left. So let's go back to this. So we're having this again. So compare this to this gradually. This is a darker shade of color, so we should change the color of our of the border. Then the sign-in button is deeper, has a darker shade of black. We should definitely change that. And also look at the font. The font is different from what we have here. This is the default font from the browser, but here in this project there is a Google font that is already applied that we can also use. But our time is up. This is 4:06 already. So we're going to stop here for today, but at least this gives you an idea on how to lay out your components, or your markup, your HTML elements inside your or within your web page. So we're going to stop here because of time. I know the time is fast spent already. People in Nigeria, I think it's like past 10 already over there, so people need to go to bed. So any questions so far? So we're going to finish this project. We're going to apply fonts. In fact, there's a lot to be done. Let me see. So we're going to apply different fonts. This is a font awesome icon. This is an H1 tag. This is H2. I believe this is H3 or H4. I think it's H3. Then these are H4 elements. These are some other icons as well. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. How do we make use of the font awesome CSS option? Okay, I didn't talk about that. Actually, this meeting has ended, so we'll talk about font awesome next week, but I can just give a brief overview. Let me just go to font awesome. So go to font awesome here. I think, yeah, it's part of the starter file. You don't need to download anything. Come to the starter, look at font awesome is here already. So the CSS and the web fonts are here. Just reference. So this is how you just reference. So copy, go to icons. Let's say I'm looking for a user icon. So let's say I want to use this a user. Click on it. See, for HTML, copy this. Once you copy this, and then make sure you reference the font, the CSS in your HTML, right? Remember how you reference your CSS? Remember how we reference style.css? So to use the font awesome, you must make sure you are referencing it in this same place, preferably at the top. So conventionally, or the best practice is your own CSS should be at the bottom or should be the last external CSS. Because remember, CSS is cascading. If you put this one at the top and you have other CSS styles at the bottom, the ones at the bottom may overwrite, especially when you have the same, if you've defined the same tags or the same selectors, right? So the ones at the bottom will definitely override the ones at the top. So it cascades down. So that's why best practice is make sure your own custom CSS is the last CSS reference at this point, and then you can now reference other things here, right? So reference other things here. So in this case, just reference your font awesome and all the CSS items that are here. So once you referenced it, anywhere you need the font awesome to appear, just copy this tag and paste it there. It's going to appear for you. So yeah, so see, go through this website. You can look at the documentation, how to use it, Google how to use font awesome and all that. You have a better understanding. Why did you remove padding from the BTN? So now I explained that the BTN, we are using the BTN as a high level component, right? Where is it again? This one, this BTN. Because we're having different types of buttons in this page. There is a buy now button, there is a sign in button. Actually, we have two types of buttons. So generally speaking, the button, all the rules inside the button class should apply to all those buttons. But there should be specific rules that should apply to sign in as well as or different from the buy now. So that's why I did that. If we go back to the style again, so there is a BTN style. This style applies to all the buttons. All the buttons, and then the sign in applies only to the sign in button. And maybe later, if we have a buy now button, if there's a buy now button, then this one now has its own specific styles, right? So that's why. So all your comments should go to the community. If you are not on Discord, please sign up now on Discord. Let me post the I believe the link should be in the last video. Your Discord link should be in the last video. Check the link. Let me try to get that link and post it here. So all your questions should go to Discord. You have people online who can respond to your questions.